Let's get straight to the point. You are the son of an absence.
You may not like to hear it. You may try to evade this uncomfortable reality, but you know perfectly well that it is so. Because this absence is not an empty space in a room, nor a gap in a family photograph. It is something deeper, darker, more constant. It is an invisible crack that runs through your entire history, affecting every decision you make, every relationship you build, every fear you silently hide. Why? Because growing up without a father is not just growing up without an authority figure or a guide. It's growing up with the permanent feeling that something inside you is incomplete, that a fundamental piece is missing that no one ever taught you how to find. It's not just the memory of who was not there, it's the perpetual shadow of what could have been. And this shadow, although intangible, weighs more than any memory. It haunts you when you are alone, when you fail, when you doubt, when you seek affection and do not find it. It haunts you even when you succeed, because deep down in your mind, there is always a bitter question. Would it have been enough for him? Would he be proud if he could see me now? And the most painful thing is that you will never have an answer. It is a question destined for silence, doomed to be repeated eternally. Do you think I exaggerate? I do not. Think about how many times you have wondered what your life would be like if things had been different. Think about how many times you looked with hidden envy at those who had what you lacked. And no, I'm not just talking about a father. I speak of the feeling of security that comes with the certainty of knowing you are loved, protected, supported. I speak of not having to grow up too fast, of not having to harden your heart too soon. I speak of not having to ask yourself, over and over again, what you did wrong to deserve that emptiness. And this is where the world is divided into two types of people. Those who allow this absence to slowly consume them, and those who decide to do something extraordinary with it. Right now, you probably identify more with the former, and it's not your fault. Society teaches us to victimize ourselves, to use our wounds as excuses to stop, to justify our failures, to explain our insecurities. But I want you to listen to this carefully, because what I'm going to tell you could change the direction of your life forever. That absence you think defines you is not a perpetual condemnation. It is a disguised opportunity, incredible potential that few manage to see. Nietzsche said something that you should engrave in your memory. What does not kill me makes me stronger. And yes, it sounds like a cheap cliché. You've heard it 1,000 times. But have you ever stopped to think about the true meaning of these words? Have you ever considered that the pain you drag can become the greatest source of strength you have ever known? Because here is the most uncomfortable truth. Suffering does not exist to destroy you. It exists to transform you, to force you to be something bigger, something stronger, something different. Do you want to know what happens when you accept this reality? That the absence ceases to be a void that consumes you and becomes the most powerful engine for your personal transformation. Who says you need to have had a father to learn what strength, responsibility, courage mean? Life has given you the hardest lesson from the first day, and now it is up to you to decide what you do with it. Are you going to continue dragging the same pain all your life, repeating patterns, justifying your limitations, seeking the compassion of others, or are you going to use it to build something that no one else can destroy? The past is untouchable, yes, but your future does not yet exist. It is waiting to be created, shaped by your decisions, defined by your courage. And if you accept this challenge, what today makes you feel insecure can become tomorrow your most powerful advantage. Because there is nothing more unstoppable than a person who has made peace with their wounds, who has left behind victimhood and embraced the power of self-transformation. I propose something different, something bold. Stop seeing your past as a burden. Start seeing it as the prologue to an incredible story that is waiting to be told. Because the strongest hero is not the one who is born with everything, but the one who builds from nothing. And you, from your emptiness, can build something that no one else can imagine. This is the secret that few know. Your paternal absence did not weaken you, it only prepared you to be unstoppable. And now that you know, there is only one question left to answer. What are you going to do about it? The question I asked you earlier wasn't rhetorical, because the answer you give will define absolutely everything. But now I want to take you to a new place within you, a territory you have avoided exploring for too long. The role that your need for approval has played in all this story. You may not have seen it clearly yet, but that paternal absence not only created an emotional void in you, it also left something much more dangerous, a silent and constant dependence on external validation. Because when you grow up with such a gap, you inevitably start desperately searching for something to fill it. It can be affection, recognition, approval, or any other form of validation that makes you feel, even for a fleeting moment, that you are worth enough. The problem is that this search quickly turns into an addiction that is never fully satisfied. Does it sound familiar? Surely it does, because this addiction has a very common disguise: perfection. You try to do everything impeccably because you believe that by doing so, you will receive that approval you so desire. And in that process, you wear yourself out, you break, because no one can sustain that mask forever. The worst part is that even if you receive praise, even if they tell you how good you are, you will always feel that it is not enough, because what you really seek is to fill a void that no external approval can touch. And here comes into play something dark and fascinating at the same time. What happens when no one is looking? What remains of you when you have no audience, when there is no one to applaud you or to validate you? The answer can be terrifying. Many times, very little remains. Because when your identity depends on the eyes of others, you yourself cease to exist the moment no one is watching. This makes you an invisible slave, constantly tied to external expectations, without the real ability to decide for yourself. Now listen well to this, because it may be the piece you are missing to break the circle. The first step towards your emotional freedom is to accept that you can never fill your void with the approval of others. It is impossible, and the sooner you accept it, the sooner you can move forward. Because that gap you try to cover is not really a space that someone else can fill. It is an internal wound that only you can heal. And this does not mean that you should isolate yourself from the world, but that you must change the way you interact with it. Your greatest challenge from now on is to learn to be alone with yourself, to learn to endure the silence without feeling empty, without desperately seeking to fill that silence with noise, with superficial validations, with fleeting relationships. Nietzsche said something key in this regard. He who has a why to live can endure almost anyhow, and you have to find your own why, your own reason, not based on proving anything to anyone else, but based solely on what you really want to build for yourself. When you understand this, everything will start to change, because the emptiness you felt will no longer be an enemy to fear, but an ally with which you can negotiate. And from that position, you can build something much more solid, much more authentic. You will no longer be afraid to fail in front of others, because your achievements will not depend on their opinions. You will no longer fear being forgotten. because your value will no longer depend on the memory others have of you. This is the true power that arises when you stop seeking external validation. You begin to live according to your own rules. Your decisions will truly be yours. Your mistakes will be opportunities, not humiliations, and your triumphs will be deeply authentic, because they will come from the only valid place, your own truth. So, now that you know this dark side of yourself, now that you know where the real challenge is, I ask you again the key question, the only question that really matters now. Are you ready to face yourself and discover who you are when no one else is looking? Are you ready to find out who you are when no one else is looking? Because the answer to this question is what will make the difference between living as a protagonist or as a mere spectator of your own life. But be careful, because this journey you are about to undertake is risky, profound, and absolutely necessary. It will not be comfortable or easy, but it will be real, and that is more than many can say. Think carefully about this. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid what you are about to face. They constantly flee from internal silence, from the mirror that reflects what they truly are, from the solitude that shouts more truths than 1,000 superficial conversations. But you have come too far to turn back now. True transformation begins right here, right now, when you decide to leave behind the fear of what you might find within yourself. Do you know what happens when you make that decision? You discover that everything you feared was nothing more than an illusion built by years of insecurities, nurtured by an emotional void that today you can understand and manage. You realize that the person you become when no one is looking is much more powerful, authentic, and capable than you ever imagined. So I want you to remember something crucial. Your true identity is not in what others say about you, nor in what you lacked growing up. It is in what you do with those circumstances, in how you choose to react, and how you use that absence to build your presence. Your story, your pain, your emotional void are not chains that tie you. They are wings waiting to unfold. The power you have now is immense, and it is exclusively yours. No one can take it away from you. No one can question it, because it comes from yourself. But this decision is yours, and yours alone. You can close this video and continue living as until now, ignoring your inner truth and allowing others to decide who you are. Or you can take control, face your own silence, and start building the life you always should have had. A life that doesn't depend on the approval of others or the past that you had to live. So now is the time to act. If you decide that you are ready to take that step, to be the owner of your destiny, subscribe now to the channel, because this does not end here. We are just beginning. And I challenge you to something more. Comment below this phrase that I give you, because I know it will resonate deeply in you. I am what I do with what I lack. I want us to flood the comments with this phrase, because it will be your first conscious act of rebellion against the destiny that others tried to impose on you. Show that you are part of those who decided to transform their pain into strength. And now, to close this video in a way you did not expect, I will leave you with one last reflection that will haunt you for days. If your life were a book, would you read it to the end? Or would you close it for fear of what you might discover about yourself? The answer is known only to you. See you in the next video, or maybe in your own shadows, where the real story begins.